Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 493. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk about movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. Bros, what's up?
Oh my gosh, we're not doing this again.
No, we're not doing bros again. However, last time we were talking about bros and bro movies, and I think we did an awful job of identifying a single bro movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a look at my collection of movies I own, and we're gonna do a quick rundown. I'm gonna name a movie. I want you to tell me if this is a bro movie or not.
Okay.
Okay. What is a bro? Do we even have a definition?
No.
I mean, everybody knows what a bro is.
We'll just have a working definition based on the films.
We're just kind of like, it's just, we'll know it when we see it kind of thing, right?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So Dark Knight or any Christopher Nolan movie.
No.
Not a bro movie.
I don't think Insomnia is a bro movie.
Okay. What about most Christopher Nolan movies?
Most Christopher?
Yeah.
Or are we including Insomnia and the following?
I'm saying most. So
I think a lot of bros like Christopher Nolan, and there are definitely more bro-ish Christopher Nolan movies, but I wouldn't say he's a exclusively bro director.
Bro director. Okay. All right. There'll be another one coming up. We can decide if this is a bro director or not.
Okay.
Die Hard. Bro movie?
No. It's too old
No.
to be a bro movie.
Okay. Gladiator?
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
I have Inception, but that's obviously a Christopher Nolan movie. Inception's definitely a bro Christopher Nolan movie.
I don't think so.
I hard disagree.
Hard disagree.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think women love Inception as much as men.
Okay. I agree. I'd just say the bros love Inception, but maybe everyone loves Inception.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you say Endgame is a bro movie?
Endgame? No.
But
I mean,
all the bros love it.
Okay, that's fair. If we're going by that definition, then
Sure.
Endgame is not a bro movie. How about most Tarantino movies?
Yeah.
Most. I don't like the word most, but there's definitely some that are only loved by bros.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
John Wick. This is a tough one.
Yeah, I'd say
No.
most.
Oh, so we split on this one.
You're the decider.
I'm going to say John Wick is not a bro movie because I think more than just bros like it.
I'm willing to concede.
Okay. The Matrix.
I'm tempted to say yes.
I'm kind of leaning towards it's a bro movie.
Sure. I mean, I
Okay.
like some bro movies. These are all like action movies. Where's the comedies that denigrate women? Those are bro movies.
I don't think
I
these
don't
are the
own
most
those,
bro movies.
So I'm just going by what I own.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I don't own like Hangover and things
Wedding
like that.
Crashers.
So, yeah, no, I'm not going to
Yeah.
be.
Wedding
not gonna be-
Crashers is more of a bro movie than any of these.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Super Troopers.
I own Super Troopers. So that's
a
not a
bro
bro
movie.
movie? Okay.
Yeah.
But I watch that with men and women, though.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm saying
Did you
if it's just
rewatch it
bros.
with any women?
Yeah, I mean, we used to watch it in college every weekend.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. You watched
Okay.
it with women in college,
Yeah.
but did you bro out while watching it?
Like, as a
I
group?
bet you broed out. Yeah, I bet the group broed out.
Define bro out.
I don't need to.
Okay. Well,
You know it when you
based
see
on
it.
based on your loose
Yeah.
definition of bro out, sure.
Yeah, see, I knew it.
Sure. All right. So Super Troopers, I own that one. I'll give that to you. T2.
T2. I think
No.
it's just a good action movie. I don't think.
It's just an action movie.
Okay. Yep. All right. And then the final one, Wolf of Wall Street.
Bro.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely bro movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, just the memes off of that one.
For sure. Yeah. Good movie, but a bro movie.
Yeah. Oh, definitely a bro. I mean, the top 100 movie for me.
I'm not going to say most, but some Martin Scorsese movies, bro movies, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there a correlation between the amount of F words in a movie and if it's a bro movie?
No, because you wouldn't say Clerks is a bro movie, and that movie has so many F words. It's insane.
Okay.
I mean, maybe that's the exception to the rule, but
I would say bro movies have lots of F words, but lots of F words does not equal bro movie.
Okay. Correlation, not causation.
Exactly.
Nice. All right.
Well, let's put bros to bed on this one.
Let's do it.
We're going to ban the word from the podcast.
Yeah. Let's move on. This week, we've got a returning favorite. This is a continuation of our top 10 forgotten films of whatever year we're talking about. In this episode, we're going to be talking about 2005. So we're going to discuss potentially 30 movies that came out in 2005 that you may or may not have thought about in a long, long time. So we started this in 1990. So this is the 15th iteration of this series for this podcast. Only took us 6 years to get 15 deep. So I think how many is that per year? 3 a year on average? Something like that? Not too bad.
Just under, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to do that. But before we jump into movies from 2005, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. We have a video version of this podcast on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search Cinereelists, REEL with an S on the end, and you'll see the channel there. You can watch this podcast while you listen to it. You could also support the podcast on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. You could also leave us an Apple podcast review. If you listen to this podcast on your Apple device, just go to the Cinereelists page, scroll down, click leave a review, 5 stars only. And if you leave a little bit of text, we will talk about it on the show. And finally, you could also send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com. Send us one of those about anything you want us to talk about, a question, a comment, a list suggestion, any of those types of things. And we will read and discuss it on the podcast. We got an email this past week or so that Zach is going to read. Hit us, Zach.
Yeah, we got another email from Troy with a last 10 top 10. Troy's had kind of some back issues lately, which means that he's been able to watch a lot of movies. So his number 10, kind of a shocker, My Fair Lady, he gave 1 star. He watched it as part of Best Picture, and apparently he really didn't like it. He said
never seen
Audrey
it.
Hepburn was overacting. I like it. I think it's good. I mean, it's a musical, so it feels more like a Broadway play than La La Land. But
I know the musical. Never seen the movie though. Yeah,
I check it out, but Troy would tell you otherwise.
Yeah, he ends his review with ugh.
Ugh, yeah. My number 9, his number 9 is The Hustle. He gave 2 star, and he felt bad for Rebel Wilson and Anne Hathaway in this movie. He thinks that Anne Hathaway is a much funnier actor than this movie showed. His number 8 was Ma, which he thought had a good plot, but was otherwise underwhelming. Number 7 was Shadow. Number 6 was Beckett, which is the David Washington movie with Alicia Vikander. He said he really enjoyed it. Number 5 is Funny Girl, which is a Barbra Streisand movie. And he said he appreciated her after watching this movie. Number 4 and 3 are both untold docs. One's Malice at the Palace and the other one's Deal with the Devil. He said these 2 movies are documentaries on recent sports stories that you may or may not remember hearing about in the news when they happened. They both keep you watching, wondering what will happen next. You won't regret seeing them. I won't spoil even the plot of them for you. And I watched Malice at the Palace, and that was on my last 10 top 10. And I'm looking forward to watching Deal with the Devil. Are either of you interested in watching these Untold docs?
I'm not familiar with them at all.
Well, Zach talked about them, so you're familiar with one of them. But
yeah, well, I wasn't paying attention.
They're on Netflix. They're 1 hour sports documentaries.
Okay, yeah.
I was paying attention, and I have since watched both of them, and they are very good. Thank you for the recommendation, Zach.
Zach, make them sound more interesting next time.
Hey, man, if you need to be sold on a sports documentary, then that's not my problem. Number 2.
Wait, play that again.
Carl?
Ah, wonderful. Super. This is why I don't share things on the podcast anymore.
You share a lot of things on the podcast.
Yeah, well, you're gonna be...
Poor little Carl! With the puppy dog eyes!
I'm pretty sure James has a deep bench of those.
This is
so
why I was late.
All right. His number 2 is Uncle Frank. Maybe this will give you a boost in your step, Kyle. He says, Kyle, was it you who first recommended this movie? James, if it was you, my apologies. Well, it was Kyle.
It was.
Either way, I watched it because of the show and loved it. Kyle, I agree that Waleed kind of stole the show, though I was really taken with both main characters.
Great movie.
I think I'm the only one who has not seen Uncle Frank.
Yeah. Should get on it. I think I give it like 4.5.
Yeah, you really liked it.
I think it was your number 1 on the top 10 last 10.
Yeah.
It was it was in my top 5 of 2020. It's a good movie.
The title of that movie just feels like the most disposable title ever. Uncle Frank. Even Frank as a name seems like such a silly name for a character in a movie.
I agree. Yeah. The marketing materials are bad. Like even the poster is not inspiring, I would say.
The poster makes it look like another low budget indie family drama. It was really the trailer that hooked us. That's what caused us to watch it.
Okay. And as Troy's number 1 is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner from 1967. He gives it 5 stars and says, I'd been wanting to see this movie for a while now, but I had no idea I'd like it this much. It's yet another dialogue heavy movie, one of many that I've seen during this pandemic that really won my heart. And are you guys a fan of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
I'm a fan of Sidney Poitier, but I've never seen Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, check it out.
I have not seen it either.
Oh, you spoiled Who's Coming to Dinner, though.
Sidney Poitier.
Yeah.
I think the premise is pretty well known.
Yeah. Have either of you seen Guess Who?
The Ashton Kutcher remake with
Yes.
Is that with Ice Cube or Bernie Mac? I know
it's Bernie Mac, I think.
Okay, they flip it.
Yeah. Have either of you seen that?
No.
I don't think so. Did that come out in 2005?
I think it did. Yeah.
Okay. there is a possibility. When we were broing out to Super Troopers, we could be watching Guess Who.
Or it's been banned.
Guess Who? 2005 movie.
There you go.
All right. Thank you, Troy, for the email.
Yes. Let's jump in to our top 10 forgotten films of 2005. I watched 123 movies from 2005. How many have you guys seen?
Oh my goodness.
Only 123?
Only 123.
Okay. Kyle?
55.
Okay. I'm in the middle between you guys. I've seen 75.
Nice. I definitely didn't watch that many in 2005, but I would guess the majority, though, I watched in 2005. Just in looking at the movies of 2005. Also in 2005, a bunch of stuff happened, you guys. So just to set the scene before we jump into the list, just to get our brains in like what was happening in 2005, we'll start with the depressing stuff in the beginning. Probably the biggest news story of 2005, at least here in the US, is that was the year that Hurricane Katrina happened here in the US. Which was awful. If you have not seen, what's the name of the documentary? It's directed by Spike Jonze. The Levees Break, I think.
I believe it's Spike Lee.
What did I say? Spike Jones?
Spike
Lee.
Jones's version of that.
One of the Spikes.
Yeah, I can't tell the difference. Spike Lee, Spike Jones.
They're exactly the same to me. So, So when the levees break or something like that, definitely track it down. I think if you have HBO Plus, I think HBO owns it, so it might be on there permanently.
What is HBO Plus?
HBO Plus? HBO Max.
Oh, Zach, you don't have HBO Plus? Ooh.
No.
But I forgot that 1,600 people died in that hurricane, which is a lot for a hurricane. For sure. Well, the hurricane and the aftermath of the hurricane. Pretty brutal. Also, that year, cancer replaced heart disease as the number one cause of death for people 85 and under.
James, you framed this as you're going to tell us 2005 facts so that we can get into a 2005 mindset.
Look, I'm starting with the awful things. We're going to work our way towards the joy. All right.
Okay.
But it's not like this jogs my memory. Like, oh yeah, I remember when cancer overtook heart disease. I know right where I was when it happened.
Do you remember where you were when you heard the news that cancer was now more deadly than heart disease?
All right. Well, here's one you might remember. In 2005, YouTube went live.
I probably didn't remember it then.
You don't remember that?
No,
I was there when they pushed go on YouTube. I'm an OG.
No.
Yep.
No.
Absolutely.
How did you hear about it? How did you know that YouTube was happening? You were not there.
Do you remember the first time
obviously.
Do you remember the first time you watched a YouTube video?
No.
Or like discovered the website, basically? Like,
I don't think I remember. I know the first video that was uploaded was him just at the zoo.
Right.
Yeah, talk about animals. Yep.
Yeah. I have a clear memory. I don't remember the videos, but I remember watching break.com. That's a real bro site, by the way. Do you remember break.com? They were like early video sharing website.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And then I remember not finding a video on Break that was on YouTube. Like Google search led me to YouTube, and I was like, what is this? The rest is history.
Just a couple days ago, I logged into my Hotmail account.
Yeah.
And they deleted all my emails before 2004.
Those jerks.
Yeah.
What were you looking for that was pre-2004?
I was curious. I couldn't remember what my first email address was. I thought maybe it's my Hotmail. So I checked it, and it only goes back to 2004 now.
I remember my first email address.
What was the at
charter.net.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was kyle.peterson@charter.net. I'm pretty sure my mom still uses her Charter email address. Like her first and only email address.
Yeah.
I love it when a client gives me an AOL address. I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be an easy one.
I know how old you are.
Also in 2005, George W. Bush started his second term as president of the United States.
Yep.
Remember that?
Happened.
Yep.
I do. I remember that. Also in 2005, Lance Armstrong won his 7th consecutive Tour de France. And then years later got them all taken away from him.
Oh, now I'm out of the 2005 mindset. I didn't know that then.
Oh, okay. You want me to know history after? Okay. We're just
You guys remember the Livestrong bracelets?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Those are huge.
They were.
Yeah.
They were definitely huge.
I've always maintained that if you want to get rich, just come up with the next bracelet trend. Because every like 3 years, there's a new bracelet that sweeps the country. Like snap bracelets and
yeah.
those.
Yep. Those are back.
Oh yeah.
My son plays with slap bracelets.
I'm
like,
they're dangerous.
This is full circle. Oh yeah, I mean he goes right for the neck too. Like come on, wrist, not the neck.
It's literally a mini blind that they made into a bracelet. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Also in 2005, following 8 years of legal wrangling in the courts, Terry Schiavo's feeding tube was removed. Remember that being a big deal?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I do. Remember when the culture wars were simple?
That was simple. I think people would.
I mean,
8 years in the courts.
With 15 years of hindsight, yes, Terry Schiavo feeding Tude was a simple culture war we had to deal with.
Sure.
I'm going to say it was all the same.
I'm going to say 2 words to you guys, and I want to see if you know what it means.
Okay.
Hot coffee.
Oh, that was the GTA mod.
The GTA mod.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a mod, really, but it was a piece of code in GTA that made the game do things it was not rated for. We'll just leave it there.
I only played Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2. They were like top-down racing movie games. They're super fun.
You stopped right before they got good.
No, they were good.
I bet you.
Grand Theft Auto 2 is good.
I bet you GTA, the original, holds up. Though you could not save. That was the annoying thing. Like you had to complete an entire city in one sitting to move on to the next.
Yeah, sure. Tom Cruise jumped on Oprah's couch in 2005. Everybody remembers that moment, right? I think he also warred with that one broadcaster about prescription drugs. Pretty sure that was 2005.
Psychology and yeah.
Oh, Lauer?
Yeah, Matt Lauer.
Yeah.
I guess Tom won that war. Destiny's Child broke up in 2005.
Okay.
Yeah. The TV show Lost debuted in 2005, as well as the U.S. version of The Office.
Oh, those are concurrent?
Yeah, same year.
Interesting. Okay.
In 2005, Carey Mulligan made her film debut in the movie Pride and Prejudice. That one was for you, Zach.
Thank you for that.
Kyle, this one's for you.
But she was already on Doctor Who.
Sure, but that's not a film. Kyle, this one's for you. Also in 2005, 50 Cent made his film debut in Get Rich or Die Trying.
I thank you for finally bringing 50 Cent into the fold of this podcast. It's been
I know
way
you're
too
a big
long.
fan. Sorry to bring that out of the closet, but
me and Fitty go way back.
Right. Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck got married in 2005. And Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt got divorced.
Oh,
this is a odd year for Jennifer's.
50-50 year for Jennifer's. Yep. Johnny Carson passed away at the age of 79 in 2005.
Okay.
And born that year, Honey Boo Boo.
Is that a first, James? A Cinereelist first?
What? Saying the word Honey Boo Boo?
Yeah.
Sure.
Are you saying that Honey Boo Boo is the reincarnation of Johnny Carson?
I didn't say that. You did.
I mean, just by the fact you have to mention who died and who lived or who was born.
Sure.
Are you willing to accept it, though? If that's the real question.
I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of love for Johnny Carson or Honey Boo Boo, so what does it matter to me?
Wait, do you have a preference for one over the other, or just both neutral in your eyes?
You're neutral.
Yeah, I don't care about either of them equally.
So
how many hoots? How many hoots do you not care?
How many hoots?
Yeah.
A lot. I don't care a lot.
Usually if you don't care, you don't give a hoot, but you give hoots.
I don't.
You give a lot of hoots. Okay.
All right.
I keep all my hoots.
Care. I give a hoot.
Okay. You care more for Johnny Carson than Honey Boo Boo?
I wonder why you assume that, but yes.
Okay.
I'm glad you assumed that.
Sure.
What was she on? Was she like Dance Moms or what show was she on?
One of those shows. I don't remember.
Well,
honestly, I didn't
was
watch
her mom a coupon clipper originally?
Oh, she was on one of those extreme coupon shows?
Like, I thought The Family was on a show, and then The Family was then put on their own show because they were such a...
I think it was a dance show that they were both on, and then
was
they got
it dance?
their own show.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't give two hoots.
Who cares? I don't give one hoot. This is the worst of TLC in 2005. Like it is at its lowest of lows.
Sure.
You know the channel she was on.
Well, yeah, because it was advertised all the time.
Interesting.
Sounds like Kyle gives a hoot.
Oh yeah.
I give a hoot about the decline of TLC into the 2000s.
I don't.
It's the learning channel, people.
You know, in my mid-20s as a guy, I was a hardcore viewer of that reality show where they switched rooms and they did interior design on them.
Oh, yeah. That's what we used to watch all the time.
I loved that show. I don't know why. It definitely
House Swap or Room Flippers? What was it?
Room Swap.
No, not Room Raiders. That's MTV.
I forget the name of it.
I can't remember, yeah.
It's the classic, though. It's the one where they have like $1,000 to remodel their neighbor's home. And I love that show. And I don't know why. I was definitely not the target demo. But it absolutely worked with me. Okay, last thing for setting the stage, 2005. The number one song of 2005, according to Billboard magazine, was We Belong Together by Mariah Carey. You guys remember that song?
Yeah.
I can't sing it, no.
No.
You don't remember that song?
No, I don't. I mean, maybe if you played it for me, I would, but off the top of my head, I cannot recall We Belong Together.
Oh, can't play it. Thanks, YouTube. But, and I'm definitely not going to sing it.
I moved to Florida in 2005.
Oh, okay. Wow. I should have put that up at the top with the other negative things.
Let's see. What's worse, Hurricane Katrina or Zach moved to Florida?
All right. Are we in the 2005 zone? Are we ready to start this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody feel
definitely.
2005? Perfect.
I was still in college in 2005.
Great. I was not, for sure. So, top 10 forgotten films of 2005. The only criteria we have for this list, same criteria we've had since episode 1, those years ago, is it has to be a movie from 2005, released in 2005. That's criteria 1. Criteria 2, it has to generally be forgotten, as in like people don't really talk about this movie. It hasn't really, not that it hasn't stood the test of time, it's just nobody knows about it enough for it to stand the test of time, right? Like your general audience, people don't know it. And criteria number 3, and this is a hard criteria, cannot be one of the top 10 highest grossing films of 2005 by box office. So it cannot be Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, cannot be Star Wars Episode 3, cannot be Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, War of the Worlds, King Kong, the Peter Jackson remake, Madagascar, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Zach, I know you want to put that on your list, but you can't. No Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. No Batman Begins. It's crazy that Batman Begins was number 9 for that year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Dark Knight ended up being like the top box office, winner for, was it the top or was it number 2? I think it was the top until Avatar, right? Is that correct?
I thought Titanic beat Avatar, or Avatar beat Titanic.
Don't remember. And number 10, Hitch, the Will Smith classic, cannot be on any of our lists. Does anybody need to make some last minute changes?
No, but I forgot about that criteria, so I was kind of on pins and needles as you were reading those 10 movies. Like, oh, geez.
Sure. All right. Let's get into it. Top 10 forgotten films of 2005. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
All right.
Before you jump in, how did you make this list?
I was just about to say that. So I ordered my list in a couple ways. Number one, I went to Letterboxd. I looked at all the movies I saw from 2005, and I kind of looked at like what are the least popular ones that I still like. So I kind of made like a list of 15, and then whittled it down to 10. And then I ordered my 10 by number of IMDb votes. So Number 1098, you are more likely to have seen or heard of. As you get down to numbers 3, 2, 1, less likely to have seen or heard of.
Nice.
Sweet.
So my number 10 from 2005 is Thank You for Smoking. This is a movie directed by Jason Reitman, starring Aaron Eckhart. He plays a spokesperson for a big tobacco firm. And throughout this movie, he's kind of having an identity crisis where he is basically selling cigarettes, which he knows kills people, right? He's obviously lying about their effects, but at the same time, he's also trying to like be a good person, be a good dad. I remember Katie Holmes plays a reporter who's in this movie trying to like, learn more about what's going on in big tobacco. And you also have Sam Elliott, who's playing a sort of a version of the Marlboro Man. Kind of like this old sort of actor who would represent this cigarette company, and now he is retired, has lung cancer from smoking, and is kind of doing all those effects. And I do remember there is a amazing scene in this movie where Aaron Eckhart's basically trying to get Sam Elliott to accept a payout from the tobacco company for his lung cancer, and just how he sells it. I mean, Aaron Eckhart plays this smarmy character so well, and it's the first time I remember recognizing him as an individual in a movie. I'm sure I saw other movies with him before that, but this is like his standout moments of like, oh, this is an individual actor I've never seen before. I did see this movie in the theater, and I have this very specific memory of watching it with my mom, and there was a person like 2 seats down from us who was clicking their gum through the entire time. Like they were chewing their gum and like clicking it through between their teeth. And at one point during the movie, my mom just turns to her, and Zach, I'm sure this is very much in, my mom, how her demeanor is. And she just turns to this woman and goes, "You need to stop clicking that gum right now." And then for the rest of the movie, it was silent from her.
Yes.
So, yes. So yeah, Pam
Well
Peterson
done.
taking care of business.
Well done. That's
Nice.
fantastic.
I'll go next.
What if it was nicotine gum?
That would be irony.
Yeah.
It definitely would.
Yeah.
My number 10 is Revolver from Guy Ritchie. Have you guys ever seen this movie from Guy Ritchie? It's lesser known for sure. This was like when he was making the transition from making British films that Americans liked to American films that Americans didn't like. And so that's, I think, where Revolver was like right in the middle of. Like he was still making the same type of British movies, but he started making them in the US with like a mixture of British and American actors. So Revolver has an interesting cast at the time. It's a very 2005 cast. You've got Jason Statham, Ray Liotta, Vincent Pastore from The Sopranos, and Andre Benjamin. Do you know who that is?
Andre 3000. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a crime movie. It's very much in the vein of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch and those types of movies. It's just long forgotten, I guess, because it doesn't really have any flashy performances like Snatch does, or it has the same editing style as Lock, Stock, but just kind of toned down a little bit. But if you like movies like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and certainly if you like Guy Ritchie movies, especially those early crime movies, it's definitely in the vein of those. And I enjoyed my time with it. My number 10.
Nice. My number 10, I wasn't sure. I roughly ranked mine with a complicated back of the notebook calculation of they progressively get more rare, and I find them more interesting. So some combination of that. My number 10 is Siriana from 2005. This is a political thriller drama. I don't know if it's a thriller, political drama, starring George Clooney, and also has Matt Damon in it, which is something that I forgot. I think Amanda Peet's in it as well. It's about like, the Middle East and the oil industry. And George Clooney, I believe, is like a guy that's kind of been in that world for a long time and just kind of knows all the players and, you know, is very worldly wise. And I think that I'd be hard pressed to remember the exact plot of this movie, but I think that he's fighting to prevent things from happening, like some merger or something. Anyway, I believe one of you can fill in the gaps if you want, but
Yeah.
I remember watching this and thinking, oh, I like this movie. This is a good movie. It's definitely like a kind of a message movie, if I remember correctly. 2005 was a year for kind of like message movies about like world geopolitics, I think. That was definitely that. The most memorable thing I remember is I think a car bomb exploding. Is that right, Kyle?
There at the very beginning, there's a car bomb. I think there's a more memorable scene than that.
Okay. Well, obviously not. So anyway, Siriana is my number 10. I debated putting Jarhead as my number 10, but I didn't know which one was less memorable.
Yeah, I mean, you figure in 2005, that was 2 years after we invaded Iraq, and we had already invaded Afghanistan. And so they had a little bit of time to kind of like make that. They had started making these movies in like 2002, 2003. And by 2005, they were coming out hot and heavy, these kind of like politically tinged movies. So there was a bunch in 2005, 2006.
All right. My number 9 is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is directed by Garth Jennings, and I was looking at this name. I'm like, why do I recognize this name? Because he directed Sing, which I watched with my son last night. And he has a pretty sparse directorial portfolio. It's Sing, it's like Son of Rambo, and then Sing 2. So obviously not a consistent director. But this is a movie adaptation of the Douglas Adams book by the same name. This is a book that I really enjoyed. The whole series is. Zach, you can probably speak even more to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as a series because you really enjoy these books.
I love it. I've reread them so many times.
Yeah. You even wrote fan fiction.
No. I didn't write fan fiction.
Okay.
I rewrote one of the books. I checked it out from the library.
Yeah.
I typed it up on my computer and then I returned the book to the library. The entire book.
So I remember you would like read the book and then it'll be like, all right, now go to the Zach version. And it would like read your part of it. And then it would say at the bottom, like, go to page 97, like skip 4 pages ahead. And then it would go back to the regular book. So it was like you punched it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is, I mean, at its most basic sense, it's about a man who lives on Earth named Arthur. And sort of out of the blue, this alien named Ford Prefect, who's in this case played by Mos Def, shows up and whisks him away on a spaceship because I believe like an intergalactic highway is going to be built through Earth or something like that. Something very weird. And then they kind of go on an adventure through space. And the whole thing is kind of silly. But that's the point of the book, is it's supposed to be sort of like a silly space adventure. There's an android, things like that. So this version of it, I would say, focuses more on like the relationship aspect of the movie. Like there's definitely some silly things going on, but I remember this movie focused a lot on the Martin Freeman plays Arthur Dent, and then Zooey Deschanel plays the romantic interest. And I know some people have an issue with that, but I remember hearing Douglas Adams talk about adaptations of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because it's been a book, it's been a radio show, point-and-click computer game. Yeah. And his kind of take was everyone who adapts Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has a different viewpoint on it. So he's like, there is no one good or bad adaptation. They're all just different ways of telling the same story. Now, obviously, as an individual, you can find it good or bad, but I tend to enjoy this movie.
Yeah,
I like it too. I wish they were going to make more. They're not, at least not in this world. You know what I mean? Like they might reboot it, but even that like is not really in the plans, as far as I know. Doesn't sound like
I think at some point in the next 15 years, they'll reboot it for sure.
Yeah, I think it's more likely to be a TV show than it is another attempt at a movie.
Right, because
that'd be great.
it tells a lot of story, and the problem with the movie is you are trying to compress all that. It's interesting. Like in the 2000s, we're doing a ton of adaptations of books, and these are things you look at now where you're like, yeah, this definitely be like an Apple TV Plus, TV show or something like that. So,
and I kind of feel like the effects and the set design and all that kind of stuff is like, at the time, it was bigger budget, wasn't huge budget, but it was bigger budget, and now they put those kind of resources in TV shows.
Oh yeah.
So I think they could pretty much make something of equal production quality in a TV show at this point. But in fact, I'd
Like
prefer
Cal
to see
said,
a
I was-
TV show, to be honest, than another film
Really?
attempt. Yeah, why not?
Like Kyle said, I am a big fan of the source material. This movie, I had such conflicted feelings about. It's always fun to see something you love on screen and adapted. And so so a lot of it I kind of like geeked out at and really enjoyed. I did find a lot of the casting to be odd or just not how I pictured the characters, like
who?
Mosteph as Ford, the guy who played Zaphod Beeblebrox.
Oh, that's Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell. I don't picture, especially the way they did his two heads was just not at all what I thought of for the character. Remember, he would have a head that his second head was at his neck. It was odd.
Right, because in the book, the second head is literally like on his shoulder. It's a second head. It's mini
two
though,
heads.
but yeah.
Marvin, the android, was not at all how I pictured him from the book. So like some of those, Zoe Deschanel and Arthur Dent were perfect. I thought, but in other little things, but there was a lot that I liked about it as well. So, conflicted. I was happy that it existed, even if it wasn't 100% my cup of tea.
My number 9 is a comedy drama called In Her Shoes. This is directed by Curtis Hanson. This is his follow-up to 8 Mile, which was in 2002. This was in 2005. It stars Cameron Diaz, and Toni Collette, and Shirley MacLaine.
Oh,
and this movie's great. I really this is one that I literally watched this past week because I was like, what movies from 2005 have I not seen that are on people's lists? And this popped up. I think it was like on Ebert's list for like his top 10 for that year or something like that. One of his lists for that year. And I was like, I've never heard of this. It's a Cameron Diaz movie. It's not a horror movie, which are a lot of the movies that I haven't seen from 2005. And so I was like, I'll check it out. And I really enjoyed it. It's been a long while since I've seen Cameron Diaz in a movie, period, I would say. And it was fun to see her act on screen. And she's a little goofy in this movie. Like the storyline is there's these two sisters. One is the attractive one and one is Toni Collette. And
is Toni Collette supposed to be ugly?
Yeah, which she's not. But
no, she's not at all.
I guess compared to Cameron Diaz, which is the comparison they're making throughout the movie, she's the uglier one. And so the Cameron Diaz's character gets to kind of be fun and fancy free, and she's the responsible one with the good job, and she's tired of like her sister just like, barreling through life like a bull in a china shop, and they have a rift, and the movie goes from there. And the character Toni Collette is playing was always kind of like in the mother role because their mom died when they were young. And yeah, it's a movie about relationships that's comedy tinged with some drama here and there. And I enjoyed it. It was good. I'm surprised I hadn't seen it. I'm surprised nobody talks about it, but they don't. My number 9.
Cool. My number 9 is a documentary called The Aristocrats.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily consider this forgotten because it still comes up in conversation every now and then. But on IMDb, it only has 16,000 ratings, which is very low for IMDb. This movie, if you've not heard about it, is a documentary, and it is a ton of comedians, probably 100 different stand-up comedians, all telling their version of the same joke. So that is the movie. And it's really a who's who of comedians, right? It has everybody telling their version of the Aristocrats joke, which is, I guess, a famous joke that comedians would privately tell each other ever since the vaudeville days. And I think the goal of the joke, it's a super simple joke. And the punchline is a family says that the name of their act is called the Aristocrats. And the point of the joke is to make it as obscene and filthy as you can. So every comedian attempts to make the filthiest version of this joke possible. And then having a punchline that's just silly and doesn't have anything to do with everything that's come before it is, I guess, the point of the non-joke. But I think I gave this movie a 2.5 out of 5 stars. So I was pretty neutral about it. It's not one that I liked or enjoyed really, but it is interesting to see so many different comedians all have a take on the same kind of thing. I wonder if that's a thing anymore. I feel like it wouldn't be. I feel like everything is so bifurcated that there wouldn't be this common private joke amongst all comedians. But it's certainly an interesting artifact of the time. I think Penn Jillette might have directed this movie from Penn and Teller. Anyways, I would guess this movie is rated R. And
yeah, it is definitely rated R.
It's The Aristocrats.
My number 8 is the previously mentioned Siriana. And if I was to rank these movies by preference, this would be my number 1. But since I'm doing it by votes, it comes in at number 8. Zach, you kind of have the basic premise down. It's a movie of 4 stories, all involving the oil trade in the Middle East. And some overlap and some are just loosely connected, but they all kind of deal around the same thing. So you've got George Clooney playing a CIA agent who's tracking down weapons that are being sold in the Middle East. Matt Damon is a financial advisor and an analyst who's working with a prince in one of the Emirates to try and bolster their economy in a post-oil world. Jeffrey Wright is working to make sure that a oil merger happens, or a merger between 2 companies, and he's kind of doing some investigation before to kind of get ahead of the DOJ. And then there is another actor whose name is I can't find it here. I believe his name is Kavan Novak, who is playing a worker of the oil fields who gets fired because of the merger and then slowly gets radicalized to kind of fight back against that. So you got kind of these 4 interconnected stories. I watched this last night, so that's why it's a little fresher in my head. I want to get this one a rewatch. As I was watching this movie, it reminded me of Traffic, kind of the same idea, where you got these interconnected stories all around the drug trade between Mexico and the U.S. And it turns out that Steven Soderbergh is a producer of Siriana, who directed Traffic, and the director of Siriana, Stephen Goggin, is the writer of Traffic. So this is basically Traffic for Middle East oil trade and Middle East terrorism. And I will say it's a good movie. It's kind of a dense movie, though, because you're jumping between these 4 storylines. They don't always give you every little piece of information you need. So you definitely have to really be paying attention. It's not a movie you can have on in the background because you will get lost. But it's pretty good. It's actually, I think it's great. For me, though, the most memorable scene is when George Clooney's game is being tortured. And it's a short torture scene, but there's some kind of brutal stuff in it. So that's kind of a warning for people if they don't want to see someone get tortured. I'd skip this one.
I have fond memories of this movie, but not specific fond memories.
Okay.
I have like a good vibe feeling about it, but I could not tell you a single frame of Siriana. I don't know why. I obviously need to rewatch it if you guys hold it in such high regard. But
yeah,
I feel like George Clooney as well was in like this movie and The American and like a couple others that were like feel like they live in the same world.
Yeah, he's definitely popped up on my list again. And Zach, you mentioned that this was a time when we were making issue movies.
Yeah.
So I have this on DVD, and when I popped open the DVD, there was a leaflet on the inside that says like, movies start the conversation, you take the action. Go to like www.thiswebsite-doesn't-exist-anymore.net to find out more. So they were definitely trying to like spark, action through cinema.
My number 7 is another movie that I watched just to catch up with 2005 movies. But about 15 minutes into it, I was like, I swear I've seen this movie before. And by the end of the movie, I had. For sure. It just wasn't marked on Letterboxd. And the title is awful. And that's why I didn't associate it with what happens in the movie. It's The Jacket, which is directed by John Mayberry, who I didn't recognize anything else in his filmography, but it's a movie starring Adrian Brody, Keira Knightley, Chris Christopherson, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Also, Daniel Craig playing a patient in a mental institution. Is that PC to say these days? I don't know what you call those places anymore.
I'm wrong.
I don't know either. It's probably not a great term.
You could say a psychiatric hospital.
Psychiatric hospital. That's much better for sure. And so Adrian Brody is a soldier in the Afghanistan war, and he gets shot in the head, but survives it, then is out in the world and gets, he hitchhikes, and the guy who pulled over and picked him up shoots a police officer. And for some reason, Adrian Brody goes to prison for this. I haven't figured out why. The movie never really goes there. He was in the passenger seat. Maybe that's enough to go to prison for it. I don't know. But they deem him criminally insane and send him to the psychiatric hospital, where they put him in a straitjacket and then put him in one of those morgue shelves where they like put you in a drawer for some reason. I forget what you call those things. Doesn't matter. And while in this straitjacket in one of those morgue drawers, he starts hallucinating. And then later on, you find out that these hallucinations, he's actually time traveling in them. But he only time travels to the future, not the past. And when he time travels to the future, he figures out that he can like help people in the future. And so he starts meeting up with people that he's met throughout his life and like helping them. And it's kind of like a psychological thriller / horror movie. And it's a weird one, but it's if you're into time travel movies, it's kind of unique amongst them, I would say. Not sure that means you'll think it's a good movie, because it definitely feels like a very 2005 movie. Like, Adrian Brody does not help. Just seeing him on screen, you're just like, oh yeah, this was the mid-aughts for sure. And Keira Knightley feels completely out of place in this movie. Like, her character is not a typical Keira Knightley character. She's not bad in it. It's just, she's definitely playing against type in this movie. And Daniel Craig is like almost unrecognizable in it. But if you're into time travel movies, this is definitely one of them. And I enjoyed it the first time and the second time, but I'll probably forget it because the title is so bad.
When you first mentioned it, I thought you were referring to The Tuxedo.
Sure.
Oh, the Jackie Chan movie.
Yeah. I mean, that's how generic the title is. It tells you absolutely nothing about the movie. I mean, the fact that he's in a straitjacket, it's not like the jacket gives him the power to time travel. He just happens to have a straitjacket on when they put him in this, morgue drawer. It's annoying, but anyway, number 7.
I think Straight Jacket Time Machine's a great movie title.
Sure. It's better than The Jacket.
It at least tells you what's going to go on, what's going to happen in this movie.
Yeah.
Is it me?
That'd be you.
Fine. My number 8 is a movie that actually does have a lot of ratings on IMDb, which it just surprises me because I just feel like no one talks about this movie at all. It's The Island with Scarlett Johansson and Ewan McGregor, directed by Michael Bay. Maybe because it's a Michael Bay movie that no one talks about. I don't know, but this is a futuristic clone thriller where clones are grown, and they're all told that like they're normal people, and they all want to win a lottery to go to this magical place called the Island. But really, when they're winning the lottery, they're being harvested for their organs, and some rich person in the real world who purchased a clone of them, it needs their liver because they had liver failure or something like that. And so Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson escape and are on the run and try to bring down the system. Anyways, I thought this movie was pretty fun. It's got the Michael Bay, sheen to it. But it's not egregious. It's not Transformers. And I liked it.
Never seen it.
You haven't seen The Island? I think
Not
it's worth
gonna.
checking out. No, really. I gave it 4 out of 5.
Well, coincidentally, this week, How Did This Get Made released their episode on The Island.
They did.
So after listening to that, I think I'm good.
They liked it.
They were mixed on it.
James, what did you think of The Island?
I think Kyle could absolutely watch The Island. I think it's an interesting watch, even if it's not your favorite movie. It's Michael Bay in like The Rock mode, but with actors that are still making movies today. And it's not a perfect movie for sure, but it's watchable, which is more than I can say for his later movies. That's for sure.
But of like the other 300 movies on my watch list, should I take precedence? Where 1 through 300, where should I slot it in?
I don't know if it should take precedence, but if you just want to watch something where you don't have to pay all that much attention and, it's a fun movie. I think it's a fun movie. I don't think it's a slog.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think this is more fun than 90% of the movies on your watch list.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If you just look at your watch list and you're like, oh, these are all big fences to climb. This is not a big fence to climb.
Should I watch The Island or Knights of Cabria? That's a tough one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe I will find time to watch it if it just pops up somewhere. But my number 7, my 7th most forgotten film from 2005 is Red Eye. This is directed by Wes Craven. This is I guess you call this a thriller, not really a horror movie, more of a thriller, starring Rachel McAdams and Cillian Murphy. Cillian or Killian? Do we know?
I think it's Killian. I keep hearing people say Killian a bunch.
Okay. Zach, do you know? You Googling it?
I'm not, and I don't know.
All right. If it's Killian, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Chiwetel Ejiofor. All right. Little different. Not that bad. So Chilean Murpho. All right. All right. So Rachel McAdams is on a plane. It's a red eye, routine flight. And Cillian Murphy sits down next to her and essentially kidnaps her on this plane and tells her that you need to do what I say or else I am going to murder your father who's back at home. I'm in contact with my people. And he needs her help for some reason to assassinate a politician. I don't remember exactly what the connection is. I'm pretty sure that Rachel McAdams and her family are rich and they are connected to this whole world. So for at least 2/3 of the movie, this is a pretty interesting thriller where we're on an airplane with two people seated next to each other, and she can't escape. She can't get away. She can't signal for help. And it's a pretty decent thriller. I do remember in the third act, they're off the plane. It gets a little bit more actiony, and the movie did suffer a little bit through that. But it was a pretty interesting, at least first 2/3, and another early role for Rachel McAdams and Cillian Murphy. You also have Brian Cox in there, who was in a ton of movies in the 2000s. Including Super Troopers.
Nice. I saw this movie on a date.
How'd it go?
It went fine. Yeah, I liked the movie.
How'd the date go?
I think the day went well.
Good. You're being very mercurial.
Yeah, well, I don't need to dwell on dates before I met my wife.
Oh.
My number 7, I'm just going to change the topic for you, Zach. My number 7 is Coach Carter. You guys ever seen Coach Carter? It's a basketball movie from 2005.
No.
Coincidentally, directed by Thomas Carter, starring Samuel L. Jackson, Ashanti, and a very young Channing Tatum. There's a bunch of other people in the movie, but those are the ones that you would recognize the names of. And Samuel L. Jackson plays a hard-nosed basketball coach who becomes the coach of a team of players who are just out of control in the worst school in the league type of thing. And he whips them into shape and makes them upstanding young men, basically, over the course of the movie. And this movie is so it's not like one of those movies where the basketball coach is like unethical, or like there's a bunch of movies where like there's a bunch of grindhouse movies where like the principal like literally fights the students, or whatever. This is more in the vein of what's that movie with where Coolio sang the song?
Dangerous Minds.
Yeah, this is more Dangerous Minds than it is The Principal and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a feel-good basketball movie with a surprising ending, and not like one that's over melodramatic, just one that you probably wouldn't expect from a movie of this type. And I think it's based on a true story on some level. Like some of the characters are based on real people, even though the school, I believe, is possibly fictional. But yeah, I enjoy it. It's fun to see Samuel L. Jackson in a movie where, he's not one of the side characters, right? He's like the main guy. He is the star of the movie. And Channing Tatum was a nobody when this movie came out. And so he is the draw, and he's not using a single F word, or he's not playing Samuel L. Jackson, the character. He's playing a guy, and he's got that guy's mannerisms and not like the mannerisms you always expect from Samuel L. Jackson. So yeah, if you're into sports movies, basketball movies, redemption movies, Coach Carter, easy watch. My number 7.
Sweet. My number 7 is The Constant Gardener. Do you guys remember this movie?
I do.
This is a movie that no one talks about anymore. I feel like at the time this was kind of an artsy prestige kind of geopolitical drama. But like it is just not mentioned at all these days. It's directed by Fernando Meirelles, and it stars Ralph Fiennes? Rafe? How do you say this guy's name? Rafe.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
And then how do you say Rachel Weisz's name?
Rachel Weisz.
Okay.
Chiwetel
Ejiofor and Rachel Weisz are in this film. And I also do not remember what this movie is about. I think it takes place in
anything.
Oh my goodness. Zach, is this about pharmaceuticals in some way?
No. It's well, maybe it takes place in Kenya, and there's like a evil corporation. It could be pharmaceuticals. I thought it was probably about the diamond trade or something. I don't know. But yeah, but it's one of those movies that's just kind of very artfully shot, and has like a romance and a pessimistic, cynical, geopolitical thing happening at the same time. And I really liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 at the time. I'd love to rewatch it because I now know nothing about it. I've forgotten it completely, but I did really like it at the time.
I have not seen it, but I can picture the poster.
Okay.
and it's like a silhouette of Ralph Fiennes pointing a gun with like the constant gardener over it.
Yeah, that's there.
No,
I don't
not
remember that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
all right. My number 6 is Good Night and Good Luck, period. Very important that's in there. This is directed by George Clooney. He's also, I won't say stars in this movie. He is in this movie. This is starring David Strathairn, Jeff Daniels, Patricia Clarkson, Robert Downey Jr. is in this movie. So a lot of people you might recognize. And this is a dramatization about the real life story of the journalist Edward R. Murrow and his stand against Senator Joseph McCarthy and his whole anti-communist witch hunts of the early 50s. So you have David Strathairn playing Edward R. Murrow, and they're kind of working on a story to investigate what McCarthy is really up to and how can they expose him for who he is. So this is both a kind of a interesting journalist thriller, but it also gives you sort of like a behind the scenes look on how these early television news programs were made. So like at one point he's interviewing Liberace. Is kind of like sort of like an aside thing. And it's obviously the Liberace part is pre-taped. So Edward R. Murrow has to more like read a script to like answer the right questions. So the tape of Liberace can answer at the right time. Or you'll see like George Clooney under the table to like signal to Murrow like when to speak and things like that. So it kind of has this sort of this both, you know, like let's look at journalism as an expose, but also like let's look at how things used to be done back in the, you know, a different era. And it's a fun movie. This is probably my number 2 if I was to rank these by preference.
Nice.
I enjoy that one as well. My number 6 is Red Eye, the previously mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess we have to take it off our list, Kyle, because we both had it. Not forgotten, evidently.
I mean, both Zach and I put Siriana on there too.
Yep.
So
that one's got to go as well.
yeah.
I don't have much to add. Just a tight psychological thriller with 2 actors I enjoy watching. And I've seen it a couple times, and I think it holds up as just kind of like a pulpy thrill ride. My number 6, Red Eye.
I also
Nice.
saw Red Eye on a date with
Oh, did
my
you?
not my now wife. So I will talk about it. It was a good date.
Nice. You waited like 3 movies to say that?
I just forgot that I saw it with her.
That's awesome. Okay, my number 6 is Sahara from 2005. This is written by Clive Cussler and stars Matthew McConaughey, Penelope Cruz, and Steve Zahn. And I thought this was a fun movie. Kind of stupid though, but fun.
What's it called?
Sahara
Sahara. I remember this.
or Sahara? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chiwetel Elijah 4.
It's like it's kind of like you know, like Indiana Jones light, you know, the Mummy kind of thing where they go into the Sahara in West Africa and, you know, are on a adventure where they have adventures.
It's not,
so it's Matthew
not like
McConaughey.
Mummy at all. I mean, the location is, but there's like nothing
vibe.
fantastical about Sahara.
How about this? No supernatural, but
Right.
same vibe, same kind of adventure vibe.
It's more like National Treasure in the desert.
No, National Treasure is much more intricate.
National Treasure has that whole Dan Brown Da Vinci Code thing going on.
Yeah. That one's more of a puzzle. This one's more of a just like, let's run and hide and then open a thing and run and hide. You know, kind of a, I don't know. Swashbuckling is not the word, but whatever the word is that's swashbuckling adjacent for these kind of movies. And it's fine. But definitely no one talks about it. And if you like Matthew McConaughey just having fun, watch this movie.
All right. My number 5 is a movie I actually watched within the last year, and I was on the fence whether to include it, but it only has 85,000 votes on IMDb, which is kind of low. So I thought I'd throw it on here. And this is The New World, directed by Terrence Malick. I could already tell Zach you got a little bit of. I'm not sure if this is forgotten or not.
Not forgotten, just underseen, but not forgotten.
Okay, all right. Well, this is starring Colin Farrell, Koryanka Kilcher, Christopher Plummer, Christian Bale, who I did not know was in this movie until I saw it, David Thewlis, and this is Terrence Malick's take on the John Smith Pocahontas story, and it's a great Malick film if you really like Malick style, because you've got a lot of magic hour, which I do like when Malick uses it. He seems to somehow find the appropriate use of magic hour. A lot of people in fields with voiceover. There is some action adventure, but that's definitely not the focus of it. And Terrence Malick movies are more about kind of like the mood and the emotion than they are about what's actually like the plot or what's the action on the screen. But this one really spoke to me. This movie did bomb, and I think it's because Colin Farrell was in it and people were expecting like a Colin Farrell action movie about, John Smith, Pocahontas, The New World. And this is the time when Colin Farrell was trying to kind of move away from being like phone booth and that kind of Colin Farrell swat to doing more of like serious acting. So I'm pretty sure
Phone Booth hadn't come out yet.
Was Phone Booth not out yet?
No, it had definitely come out yet.
Okay, all right. Colin Farrell was making a transition in his acting career at this point, and I think this is an early part of that transition, and people who were hoping for hunky Colin Farrell running around shirtless, people hoping for Troy with Brad Pitt, got a different movie in Colin Farrell with The New World.
Wait, is your contention that this movie bombed because people went to this movie and didn't like it because it wasn't the Colin Farrell movie they wanted?
I believe that it's both, that people went to it and were disappointed. So then the word got out, oh, this is not the Colin Farrell movie you're looking for. And maybe the reviews were like, oh, this is not, this is a heady emotional piece, not a high adventure action movie.
Okay. I would submit that Kyle's right, but a different way of saying that is that this is a Terrence Malick movie, and no Terrence Malick movie has ever been accepted by the mass culture as like a blockbuster movie. And he made a Terrence Malick movie that happened to have big superstars in it, and they tried to market it like it's a movie for people who like those big superstars, and he don't make those kinds of movies.
No, he does not.
Yeah. Totally.
There's in the theater like, why is the sun always setting?
Right. I mean, it'd be like if they advertised what's the movie with Brad Pitt that Malick made with him? Tree of Life. If they advertised Tree of Life like it was a Brad Pitt movie. It's not a Brad Pitt
this summer
movie.
Brad Pitt, Sean Penn, Jessica Chastain.
Yeah. All right, my number 5 is Pusher 3. I don't have much to say about this movie because it's the third time a Pusher movie has shown up in my top forgotten list, because every time one of these comes up and it's a year that a Pusher movie came out, I get the same feeling. Nobody's talking about the Pusher movies, and they're awesome, especially the first 3. All 3 directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, from Drive, Only God Forgives, a bunch of other things that you may or may not like, but if you like them, you should definitely watch the Pusher series, because it's him making movies before he made Drive, and you can see him go from like your standard filmmaker to a guy who has a distinct voice over the course of the 3 Pusher movies. They're good. If you like crime movies, it's all about drug trafficking in the UK. The first 2 movies have like a big name attached. I'm forgetting. I think it's Mads Mikkelsen, possibly, who's in the first 2. And yeah, it's a great series. I don't know why people don't talk about it. It's definitely forgotten, but it shouldn't be. My number 5. 5? 5.
5. My number 5 is a fun movie. It's Stealth from 2005.
This is definitely forgotten.
Yeah, for sure. I like Stealth. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a fun movie. I would watch it again tomorrow. It stars Josh Lucas as top billed with Jessica Biel and Jamie Foxx. Sam Shepard is also in it. And essentially, the plot's very easy to explain. This one I definitely remember well. There is a top secret plane that has artificial intelligence, and it can fly better than a human pilot, all that kind of stuff. But when they discover that the AI is about to start World War III, 3 fighter pilots, played by those actors that I mentioned before, have to bring it down. So it's basically like 3 human pilots versus a superior secret top secret military plane with artificial intelligence. And I thought this movie was a lot of fun. It's like it's a popcorn action movie that I think Battleship came out before this, and that movie's 2 notches sillier. And so when Stealth came out, people were just not into it. But I think this movie is fun and certainly forgotten. No one is talking about Stealth today, but I think it'd be fun to watch again.
So you mean
it's from the director of The Fast and the Furious, Rob Cohen.
You're talking about 2012's Battleship that came out before Stealth?
Yeah, no. The 1973 Battleship,
okay.
Based on the no, I'm just kidding. I was, yeah.
All right. So 7 years in the future, people saw Battleship and are like, I don't want to see Stealth.
Yeah. Kyle, have you seen Stealth?
I have, and it's dumb.
What'd you give it? What's your rating?
I don't even know if I rated it on IMDb or on. If I was to rate it, I'd probably give it a 1 star.
Well, you can't retroactively rate it.
You can't.
I don't know. It was definitely, definitely. Most of my ratings are retroactive. I didn't have Letterboxd back in 2005.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it a 1 star. I even forgot Jamie Foxx was in it.
A 1 star is like you hated it.
Yeah, it was dumb. It was stupid action. It looked bad, and I don't remember, like, even the whole idea of like the AI stealth fighter was not very impressive or formidable or scary, or it was just a dumb movie.
I think at a 1 star, that's probably one of your least favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, I can take down another half star if you want.
I haven't watched as well. Don't remember much about it. And I gave it 2 stars, Zach, which is below average.
Yeah,
me.
Double Kyle's.
Not a movie I hate, but one that I thought was less than average.
I was a bit of a movie snob around this time, so that could have weighed into my memory and rating. But I still don't think it's a good movie.
Kyle, don't give up this one. It's a bad.
Oh no!
movie.
Well, I'm standing by my 1. I'm just saying, like, movie snob Kyle gave it a 1.
I've always contended that I am not a movie snob, even though I do like a lot of movies that are like other movie snobs like. Movies. But I also gave Stealth 3.5 stars. So
yeah. I mean, this comes down to taste.
Oh,
it does. That's exactly what it comes down to.
All right. My number 4 is one of 2 documentaries on my list. 2 documentaries. I do watch these. I do have opinions on them. This is Grizzly Man, directed by Werner Herzog. This is definitely a movie I have not forgotten, but I don't hear people talking about Grizzly Man, and I think they should. I think this is an amazing documentary. It is about this guy named Timothy Treadwell who spent 13 summers in Alaska living with grizzly bears, and he filmed himself living with these grizzly bears. And we're not talking like, across the river or nearby. He would like befriend them, name them, would wrestle with the bears. He was pretty convinced that he was one of the bears. And this documentary is both kind of like showing his footage of living with these bears, which is amazing to see this guy stand next to these enormous grizzly bears, but also Werner Herzog trying to explore like what drives a person to do something so incredibly dangerous and something that the vast majority of us are like, yeah, you don't go by grizzly bears. You don't mess with them. You don't touch them. Yes, you keep your distance. So it really kind of goes into depth of who this guy was, Timothy Treadwell, and what drove him, as well as just showing this incredible footage he shot of living with the grizzly bears. I would highly recommend this documentary. I'm sure both of you guys have seen this, but if anyone has not, they got to check it out.
Yeah, definitely have.
It's a good one. I think it's on my top 10 all-time documentaries.
Yeah,
when we
I
did
could
that
see
list
that.
back in the day. My number 4 is Cache, aka Unseen, I think is the US title. Something like
Hidden. I think it's
That's
Hidden.
what it's called.
Yeah.
Hidden. This is a Michael Haneke movie, who is the guy who directed Funny Games, probably most famously. And a bunch of other movies, but I think that might be the only other one I've seen. And if you've seen Funny Games, it is a harsh movie, I would say. And it's a movie that like actively judges the audience. And I feel like Cache, directed by the same guy, is similar, but it lets the audience off a little more and is far less harsh. So here's the plot. Have you guys seen Cache or Hidden?
I have.
Okay, Zach's seen it. Kyle hasn't.
It's
I won't go too deep.
Really,
into the
really
spoilers.
good.
But and a movie that people don't talk about for some reason. So movie starts and there's a camera shot, static camera shot of like a building where people live, and you're just watching this shot and like credits are rolling over the shot. There's no music. There's almost no audio basically. And then all of a sudden you hear characters talking about the image you're looking at. And then all of a sudden the image starts rewinding. And then you're like, oh, we were watching a tape. And then the characters talk about the tape. And then at some point it like cuts to normal film mode where it's like typically told movies where you're like now seeing the characters that are talking about the tape and the movie goes from there. And the problem that these characters are having is that somebody keeps taping the outside of their building and then giving them the tapes like anonymously. And they're like, what is up with people taping our building? And it starts to freak them out and they get paranoid about it. And the movie goes from there. And so the question is, why is somebody taping them and why is somebody like giving them the tape? And it's not a horror movie, although there's like maybe one scene that's pretty shocking. Not near as far as Funny Games goes, but comes out of nowhere. And what else to say about it? Oh, the other really cool thing, and I'm sure other movies have done this, but this movie does it a lot, it's kind of the same as that opening scene, is they set up a scene and like the camera is set up in a very specific way to make it feel like in Anchorman, right? There's two types of shots in the scenes where they're in the studio filming the news show, right? They've got the shot that's the movie shot, and then they've got the shot that the people at home in the 80s watching the news would have seen. So like, I forget, what's the filmmaking term? Like for a camera angle that's supposed to represent real life and not diegetic? Is that the term? Like a diegetic?
That was sound, but
yeah, I think you can do
is that like in media res? Is that the right term?
I don't know.
Okay.
What this movie does is like there's a shot where he's a TV host and it's literally him delivering directly to the camera. And then the camera, so you're assuming that you're seeing what the people at home are seeing on TV. And then the camera, after the cut, just kind of pans over as he walks away to talk to somebody, which it wouldn't have done if it was just the studio shot. So it like messes with why the camera is aiming at things. And it's unique in that way. It's like a really slow burn movie, but it does go places and I enjoyed it, and nobody talks about it. I feel like this should be talked about more than Funny Games, because Funny Games kind of has one trick. It's like ultra violence and implicating the audience just for watching the piece of media. Whereas this one, I think, gets across the same thing without being shocking, like using other tricks that are less whiplashy, like less intended to just kind of like Funny Games will make you feel guilty by the end of it, whereas Cachet will get across the same point without shaming you as an audience member. So my number 4, Cachet.
Cachet kind of made me feel like a French Vertigo. That's how I felt watching it.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's really good. I agree with James.
I'm intrigued.
It's a more challenging watch than The Island. Okay. So
Yeah. Right now it's Cachet, The Island, and Stealth for my watch list.
Okay, my number 4 is Junebug from 2005. It's a Phil Morrison movie, and really I think of this movie as a Amy Adams drama. She plays like an art dealer that goes to like the country to meet her like new in-laws, her new family. And so it's her kind of fish out of water drama, like trying to be accepted by them and also learn about them and that kind of thing. And I really liked it because I really like Amy Adams' acting. And so I mostly just see this movie as a showcase for that, a very small movie that she made. And I liked it a lot. So Junebug, my number 4.
All right. I just looked up in media res, and it means to start a story in the middle of the action.
It's not that nice.
So not even close. All right. My number 3 is North Country. This is directed by Nikki Caro, who actually directed Mulan, the live action version last year. This is based on a true story and is starring Charlize Theron. She plays a woman working as a miner in the 80s, and she is experiencing all kinds of sexual harassment at her job, both, comments from coworkers as well as preventing her from being able to move up the ranks at the job. And she recognizes this as not being right and decides to sue the company for sexual harassment. And this is actually based on the first successful suit of sexual harassment against the company. So you got, this is a drama. It's also a courtroom drama, but it has a great cast. Just reading through this, you got Charlize Theron, who's great as always. This is shortly after her turn on Monster, so she's definitely a hot drama actress at the time. Frances McDormand, Woody Harrelson, Sean Bean. I believe he lives through this one. Amber Heard is in this, who actually plays young Charlize Theron, apparently. I was looking that up. Jeremy Renner, which I do not remember being in this movie whatsoever. Richard Jenkins, Sissy Spacek. Then the list goes on and on. Definitely a good courtroom drama style movie.
Yeah, I like this movie as well. And certainly if you're a Charlize Theron fan, you should see it. I think it probably is forgotten because Monster overshadowed it so much, like the year before or maybe 2 years before. And I think people saw this movie as like another Oscar play for Charlize. And so I think they dismissed it, but I think it's good.
Yeah.
My number 3 is, shockingly, a movie from 2005. It's called Last Days, directed by Gus Van Sant. It's about, not really, but kind of about Kurt Cobain's last days on the planet, a few days before he killed himself. And
before Courtney Love had him shot.
Sure. I mean, they don't go into that in this movie, but yes.
I don't believe that. Don't worry.
Yeah. So they never say the name Kurt Cobain or the name Nirvana, and I believe his character actually has a different name. But yeah, his name's Blake in the movie. So they're definitely not saying it's Kurt Cobain. And yet a lot of the things that happen in this movie line up with what we know about Kurt Cobain's life at the time and how that played out. And it's Gus Van Sant. being a little experimental like he does occasionally. It's definitely kind of like a hangout movie where you know where it's leading. And even though you know where it's leading, you're kind of like searching for clues as to why this guy would end up where he ends up at the end of the movie. Just like people have searched for clues as to why Kurt Cobain ended up where he ended up at the end of his life. And the movie, much like life, doesn't offer too many answers. And I think it's a movie worth watching. It's an interesting experiment. And if you enjoy Gus Van Sant, you've probably already seen it. But if you haven't, you should bump it up your list because it's worth a watch. My number 3, Last Days.
Awesome. My number 3 is Shop Girl. This is a Steve Martin and Claire Danes film. Also has Jason Schwartzman in it. And this is such an odd movie. It's written by Steve Martin, so I think that was the appeal. That's why I wanted to watch it. And Claire Danes plays a shop girl. She works in a department store, like a high-end department store. I think she might sell gloves. And Steve Martin is a customer, and he's a lot older than her, but he's flirty, and they kind of flirt with a May-December romance between the two of them. And then Jason Schwartzman is like someone her own age, and so she's kind of choosing between these two men. One is cynical and older, the other one is still finding his way in her age. And I just found it to be an interesting kind of anomaly to see this Steve Martin, mostly drama, kind of lighthearted moments. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 10. And it's certainly a film that no one talks about. So Shop Girl, my number 3.
I've actually seen this movie. I saw it in the theater when it came out.
Wow.
And me and my friends were looking for a light, funny Steve Martin movie to go see.
No.
And we did not get a light, funny Steve Martin movie whatsoever.
You didn't?
No.
If you wanted something light, you should have gone for The Island or Stealth.
Oh, we went for Stealth. Don't worry.
I always get this one confused with Broken Flowers. I always get those titles crossed.
I gotcha. Yeah.
I feel like similar movies, even though I know they're not really similar, other than like aging comedian, younger co-star.
Isn't Broken Flowers Bill Murray?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. My number 2, I think this is the movie that most people are the least likely to actually have heard of, even though my number 1 has less votes. This is The 3 Burials of Melquiades Estrada. Have either of you heard of this or seen it?
I've seen it.
Absolutely.
I did not care for it.
You've both seen it.
Yeah.
It's my number 1. Spoiler
okay.
alert.
All right. Spoiler right there. Well,
let's talk about it.
I won't get too much into it. I'll definitely leave some for you. This is directed by Tommy Lee Jones and starring Tommy Lee Jones. At the beginning of the movie, you have a immigrant farm worker, Melquiades Estrada, who is close to the border. I think he's like trying to shoot a coyote or something. And a border agent played by Barry Pepper thinks that he's shooting at him. So he actually kills Melquiades Estrada, realizes his mistake and quickly buries him on the spot. Tommy Lee Jones finds out about this because he was working with Melquiades. He essentially kidnaps Barry Pepper, exhumes the body, and they travel to Mexico together to rebury Melquiades Estrada in his hometown. So it's got a little bit of like this adventure story going on, but it's also kind of trippy. Like while they're in the desert traveling south of the border, they just have all these weird encounters with strange people. And each one's sort of episodic as they kind of make their way through the desert. That's all I'm really going to say about this movie. It was a movie that I think just the title of it is what turned me on to wanting to see it. I'm like, this is an interesting sounding title, and it definitely delivered. It was a movie that I really enjoyed, and a movie that I still like. I've not forgotten. It's definitely something I've thought about. I did forget that Tommy Lee Jones directed it, though.
Yeah, I think I watched it because it kind of looked like a Western, And then what you get is
Yeah.
not a Western.
No.
Even though it's a little dusty and, takes place in deserty type stuff here and there. But it was surprising to me, and I enjoyed it as well. It is my number one, and nobody ever talks about this movie.
It never comes up. No.
I don't think anybody talked about it when it came out.
No, I definitely saw like the DVD and picked it up there.
As the person who disliked it, let's hear it.
I didn't really like it that much. I learned about it from a podcast that I listened to. And so I checked it out and I found it kind of cynical. I just wasn't into it.
It's no stealth.
That's true. That is very true. I would say those movies are dissimilar.
They both have 3 things in them.
Burials.
And co-stars.
Yeah. James, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is a documentary that I mentioned on our top 10 documentaries of all time. I still think it's forgotten, even though I've mentioned it. It's Rise, which is a documentary. I think it's the only documentary from David LaChapelle, who directed all kinds of super flashy music videos from the 90s. He directed like Puff Daddy videos from that time. And basically, if you were a big rapper with a big budget music video, David LaChapelle probably directed it. It's a documentary with a ton of energy and a ton of style in the way that it's shot, because a music video director shot it, basically. And it's about people who dance in a very specific way called crumping. And a lot of them actually dress up like clowns while they do it. And it's a great documentary. I if you have not seen Rise, you should definitely check it out, because it's packed with style and has a good, like, not necessarily rags to riches, just like underdog story to it. Like it has a wrapper of like literally a crumping competition and like people going to a place to compete against each other in this very specific, unique style of dance. And more people should see it. That's why I'm giving it my number 2 slot.
Nice. Rise with a Z, right?
Yes. Rise with a Z.
Oh. Nice. Okay. My number 2 is The Puffy Chair. And that's directed and written by the Duplass brothers, Jay and Mark Duplass. And I remember seeing this movie because it was like this ultra indie movie. It was so indie. It was just like 2 guys were like, we want to make a movie. We have no money. We're just going to make a movie. Let's make it about this chair. And I just loved the idea of these guys. Like, I want to make a movie. Let's do it within our means and make something interesting. And they totally did. Like, they made something worth watching, even though it's really just about moving this chair from one place to another. And it made me a fan of the Duplass brothers. It made me want to watch out for like, what's the next thing they're going to kind of do. And that's always been a fruitful endeavor for me. I've really enjoyed watching their career, and they've done a lot of things that I've been interested in. So The Puffy Chair started out. I can't remember exactly because it is a rather forgotten film, but wasn't this maybe Netflix's first like dip into original programming?
I don't think so. This is, I mean, and they made it on disc because this was pre-streaming.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know.
I feel like there was a Netflix connection to The Puffy Chair. But how would you ever know?
I didn't know they invested in content before streaming.
I feel like it was a very much an anomaly, but maybe I'm spreading misinformation. Who knows? Wait. The film was released by Netflix.
Really?
So Netflix was the distributor. They released it in 2006, but yeah.
What year did you guys get Netflix mail service? Do you remember?
Probably before that, maybe like 2004.
Oh, that early, really?
I think so. Because I remember having it. In 2005 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember ordering Sopranos on DVD, like Soprano seasons, like in 2003, 2004. So.
Oh, I don't think I got Netflix till 2006, 2007. Definitely after college.
Still have Netflix.
I have Netflix again. I took a break for a while from the disc service, and it's back, and it's great. It's getting me to watch a lot of movies that I would not normally watch. So it's a worthy investment.
What's your number one, Kyle?
My number one is, so this is the movie with the least amount of IMDb ratings on my list. This is the previously mentioned The Aristocrats. And Zach, you're correct. This is starring Ben Gillette. I don't have too much to add to what you said. You did a pretty great job of setting it up. The two things I'm going to add are, one, I remember this movie being a big deal because Bob Saget told his version of The Aristocrats in this movie, and it's especially obscene and dirty. And I think for a lot of people, this was their first time seeing actual Bob Saget comedian and not Full House and America's Funniest Home Videos Bob Saget. So, maybe for a lot of people, this is like, oh no, my childhood is ruined. I saw Bob Saget tell this joke. Secondly, I watched this with my dad. Would not recommend watching this movie with someone who you do not want to hear obscene content next to.
Yeah.
But the jokes are pretty darn funny.
I don't remember laughing at any of them.
I remember laughing at the ridiculousness and the filthiness of the jokes.
Okay.
Because like the joke itself is, the punchline. So it's not so much like, oh, you got me. That's a good one. It's more of like, I can't believe how far they're taking this. And
sure.
it's more to like see people like Drew Carey tell this joke, like Bob Saget tell the joke. When you see Sarah Silverman tell it, you kind of know which direction it's going to go. But when you see these other comedians, that's the surprise right there.
Sure.
That being said, I gave this 3 stars, so it's not like it's a 5-star documentary or anything. It's a movie I enjoyed, but probably will not revisit anytime soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't imagine ever needing to rewatch Aristocrats. Not that I didn't like it. It's just one of those things you watch once and move on.
Exactly.
Whereas I could see,
okay.
I did rewatch Rise and I did rewatch Grizzly Man. Like those are documentaries that I think at least get 2 viewings, if not more.
Yeah, definitely Grizzly Man.
What's your number one, Zach?
My number one is Tristram Shandy. Have either of you seen Tristram Shandy?
No, I've not.
I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Perfect. This is a forgotten film of 2005, but I think it is absolutely worth watching. You guys should unbury it and tell people about it. It's directed by Michael Winterbottom, and it stars Steve Coogan. And this is based on a book, a super old book, hundreds of years old, called The Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy, Gentleman. And it was written in 1759. And this movie is about making the movie adaptation of the book. And the book has always been considered unfilmable because the conceit of the book is he just does a lot of asides. So it's like the original Family Guy, so he'll be talking about something. He's like, to understand this, you really have to know more about this. And so it'll just keep backing up. And so by the time you get to the end of the book, it hasn't even started telling the story because it keeps getting distracted away from what it's talking about. And anyway, the movie is about trying to shoot an adaptation of the book. And the movie, likewise, not in an annoying way, not like that. But during production of the film, it kind of he's distracted from his work in acting in this film because of stuff that's going on in his personal life. And so that's kind of the connection there. But it's a comedy. It's I think it's really clever how they do it. It's like a period piece version of Adaptation, maybe, if you wanted to think of it a certain way. But yeah, Tristram Shandy. And for fans of Steve Coogan, this is like prime Steve Coogan. And I think he's a really funny actor. I like watching him on screen. So yeah. So Tristram Shandy, I definitely recommend it.
Cool.
Nice.
Never heard of it, but sounds intriguing.
This was on my list of movies to watch before we made this list, and I could not find it.
Oh, nice.
And it was under a different name. That's why I didn't recognize it when you mentioned it.
Yeah, that's the subtitle.
But I had not heard of this movie until I started researching like forgotten film for good forgotten movies from this era. So.
Have you guys seen Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
Oh yeah, it's a great movie.
Of any movie, it reminds me the most of that.
Okay.
Have you guys ever watched the A Trip movies like that Steve Coogan made with another comedian? I think there's like
Rob
4 or 5
Dwyer or something like that is the guy's name. Rob something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yes.
But I know people who love those movies and I've never watched one, so I'm just curious.
I watched the first Trip and it was funny.
Whenever I see a trailer for one of them, I always think, oh, that would be fun to watch. But Rob Brydon is he's in Tristram Shandy.
Okay. I do the same with the 7 Up documentary series. Every 7 years, like clockwork, they release another one. I'm like, I really should watch that documentary series. And I've never
seen
do.
4 of them. James, I've seen 4 of them, and they are really, really worth your time.
Oh, I know. I'm in. I don't need to be sold. I just am not going to watch them, obviously.
And they are not hard to watch. It's not hard to watch at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally into the concept. I've heard people tell me it's beyond the concept. They're actually good. I've been sold many times over on them, and yet have not bothered.
Yeah,
I don't know why. But
the
awesome.
Trip you can totally have on in the background. It does not need your undivided attention.
Okay.
But Zach, I think you'll like it because they have a whole bit on trying to do their best Michael Caine impressions.
Great.
Yeah.
Who's better at it?
Ooh, I want to say Rob. What's his name?
Brydon.
I think Rob Brydon was a little bit better, but they each have their own little take on it, and they're each doing like Michael Caine of different eras. Like one will do 70s Michael Caine, one will do 90s, and yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you for joining us for this episode 493 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. Don't forget, you can always send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com, REEL with an S on the end. You could watch the video version of this podcast on YouTube. You could support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. Support the podcast, get extra after show audio, amongst other things. You could leave us an Apple Podcast review. You could follow us on social media at Cinereelists on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or you could follow me on my personal Twitter or Letterboxd account at YoJRB.
You can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Schaben.
You can find me on Letterboxd at PeterSKB.
Next week, we will be watching the MCU movie Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So if you're going to pre-watch anything, watch that, because that's what we're going to talk about. Not sure what we're going to pair it with, but who knows?
We'll see. Top 10 rings, obviously.
Top 10 ring movies?
Yeah.
Well, you got
or just rings.
You got The Ring. You got The Ring 2. You got Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
You got 3 Lord of the Rings right there.
Right?
Yeah.
The Postman Never Rings Twice, or what? Gentleman Never Rings Twice. I don't know what it is.
Is that a movie? I've never
Yeah,
heard
I
of
think it's Postman Never Rings Twice.
You got
Yeah.
The Wedding Ring.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if that's a movie, but I'm willing to bet it is.
I bet you there's a movie called Ring of Fire.
There's one called Rain of Fire.
It's probably one called Ring of Fire too. It
there?
is the unofficial knockoff documentary about Johnny Cash.
Okay.
They actually
I
can't
didn't know
sing
there
any of
was
the
an
songs.
official documentary about Johnny Cash.
Or,
Is there an official?
I think the official movies walk the line. Maybe not documentary is the movie.
Sure.
So you got Walk the Line, it's the official. Then you got Ring of Fire, the unofficial. You know, he's got to sing like Circle of Fuego instead. He can't actually say the actual lyrics. They don't
Ring
have
of
the rights to the
Fire,
music.
the documentary is not endorsed by his estate. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm. This is a bad joke that is petering out.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. More bad jokes to come next week. Until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.